So it's 11:30, at least my time. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for showing up. We could not be more excited. Pre-release has been a long time coming, and it is our time to show you guys what we've got. So with that, Chris, maybe you want to pump people up a little bit about pre-release and tell them, what's in store, and then we can kind of get to just talking a little bit more about the nuances of it and maybe early access and some of the missions that we've got going on.
Yeah, sure. But to start, I do want to just address obviously StarkNet announced their airdrop yesterday and going to be happening on the 20th. I'm sure many of you have allocations, and I'm sure many of you don't and probably should have. Has been some frustration. We share it. Certainly, we're trying to get all of this feedback back to the appropriate people, both with the foundation and Starkware. We'll keep doing that, and we'll continue to do that going forward. We don't expect this to be the last opportunity to get Starks. Not that that's the primary intention of what we're building here, but given that we are part of the StarkNet community, it's relevant. So we'll continue to give them that feedback and push for more opportunities in the future. We have been working. It's an ongoing effort right now to provide more of those opportunities in a much more targeted way. So please stay tuned and just know that ultimately our choice to be on StarkNet was about the technology. It was about finding a fit for what we wanted to do, what we wanted to accomplish with influence. That has not changed. There's some things I think the foundation needs to do to improve how they build the community and how they build the network, but that will come, and we will continue to help them get there. So we're going to keep driving forward, and I'm really, really excited that we're now able to announce that pre-release is coming soon. So coming next week. It's been, like JP has said, it's been a ton of hard work. It's been a couple of years of hard work to get to this point, and I'm really, really excited to kind of bring the full breadth of influence and exploitation to the community, so you guys can really take a look, check it out, start playing around with all of these different systems. The game that you'll see next week is very close to what you'll see at exploitation. It's very close to complete. There will be a few little omissions here and there. Specifically, the omissions are mostly around the more cosmetic pieces. So event annotations will come shortly after we roll out into pre-release. Event annotations are basically the ability to add your own lore to things that are happening in the game. So as you're flying around the belt or extracting materials, or some interesting event occurs that you want to give context to, that will be possible, but won't be possible immediately next week. Other things similarly cosmetic, like chat, for example, is a feature that will come after we get started with pre-release. And expect to see the client evolve as well. We've worked really hard to get this out to you guys as soon as possible, so that you have some time to play with it as we lead up to launch, which again will occur after the Denkun 4044 merge. But what that means is that we will continue working on the client. So what you see next week, although it will be close to final, is not final. We'll continue working on bugs that you all help to identify, a process that will be incentivized. And we're going to continue polishing and improving the client itself. So you'll see optimization passes, you'll see new animations. You'll see some of the screens change here and there to kind of improve the UX, as we've been thinking about various improvements, both internal and based on feedback. So expect to see it change. It will be a growing, maturing client as you play with it, which I think is quite exciting. And also you'll all have a significant role to play in kind of defining how it grows and changes over the next 6 weeks or so as we run pre-release. So I'm hugely excited. I think it's going to be a great event. There's going to be a ton of people involved. If we look at kind of the involvement level of the last test nets, I wouldn't be shocked to see thousands of people playing together. So I'm really, really excited to see this simulation kick off and for you all to finally be able to participate fully in exploitation. So to just briefly, and then I'll hand it back to JP to talk a bit about the missions. The process of rolling this out, it was intentional for us to try to simulate launch as closely as possible. A great opportunity to work out any bugs or kinks that are there to make sure that launch goes smoothly. So what we've done is we took a snapshot of all the assets, and this was prior to when you could bridge anything to L2. So we took a snapshot of all that data. It has been loaded into Sepolia. Both L1, you had assets on L1 at the time of the snapshot, they will be on L1 on Sepolia, which means you'll want to go and use the bridge. You'll want to mint any crewmates that are left to be minted there, claim your sway, bridge it over to StarkNet. That's available now. So you can get a head start on that over the next week. It's available at assets-prerelease.influenceth.io. After you do that, you'll be ready for when pre-release starts for real next week. For those of you who have RVOD crewmates or who are eligible to claim what we're calling a first generation Adalian, these are people who bought asteroids during the prepare for launch sale, which was the most recent one. As long as you have one of those crewmates on your crew at the beginning of pre-release, you'll be able to participate in that early access period. And that same early access period will be available at launch. Again, we're simulating things as closely as we can. Then after that early access period finishes, everybody and anybody with a crewmate is going to be able to participate at that point.
Hey, Chris, real quick, I just want to
Yep.
maybe share this with everyone who comes here to the AMAs. If you guys have friends that you've told about this game and you want to get them in during early access, and you have 50 crewmates that you're bridging over, all you need to do is send them one of those on Sepolia. So it's not like you're losing a crewmate. You can send them, they'll have access, and they can start playing.
Absolutely, definitely encouraged. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like logistically how we're going to get started. Like I said, there's missions. JP's going to share more about those. Those will be incentivized with sway, as well as bug reporting. We want this to be an opportunity to make launch go as smoothly as possible, to be as polished and amazing as possible. So if you are bringing bug reports, especially if they are complete and well communicated bug reports, absolutely going to be incentivized with sway as well. So I would greatly encourage you to do that.
Yep, and if you like vanity rolls, I'm going to be creating some new ones in the Discord. So if you're a bug finder and we think that it was, something that was reasonably major or whatever it might be, feedback and bugs will be rewarded vanity rolls as well on top of sway, I think. Chris, do you want me to dive into missions a little bit?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, pulling up my cheat sheet here really quick, just so I can talk about them more directly. So we've been working on some really fun, in my opinion, really fun missions for you guys. There's two types. There's community missions and there's solo missions. So solo missions are really to gear you or push you through kind of the core game loops get you involved and just learning. That will basically reward you with sway depending on how many of the total missions there are. There are 9. So how it works will be, you have to basically complete a minimum amount of those missions, and then you'll increase your rewards as you complete, more of them. If you complete all of them, you get a larger reward. The community missions are geared to start to get you guys playing together. This is supposed to be an MMO. That means there should be a lot of activity between players. And right now that's going to be, mostly in the Discord, but also through your actions in game. And so these are things, for example, I'll give you guys a sneak peek at some of these things. We have one that's going to be called Base Camp. Base Camp is a bit of a competitive one, but you basically the top 10 asteroids that have the most crews on them at the end of pre-release will get a chunk of sway. These will be crews that started on AP or another asteroid and ended on, another asteroid. So this doesn't mean you go build a habitat, make 1 million crews, and you win. This is you took a flight from one asteroid to another, and at the end of pre-release, whatever asteroids have the most crews on them will win that activity. So that one I think is really exciting and fun. I think a lot of the early adopters, most of you guys, obviously have ships immediately, so you guys can really figure out how to best get people to asteroids. And I'm excited to see what you guys do. Other things with community missions will be something along the lines of, we've got Rock Breaker, where we want to see 25 million tons of materials being mined. And then that'll cap out at 50 million tons. So anyone who helped mine, any materials, you had to mine at least 1 ton of material, up to 50 million, you guys will earn rewards. So there's going to be a whole bunch of these, but again, this is really to start helping, alliances form and you guys to learn how to participate together in this, ever-changing universe, Adalia. Let's see here. Chris, anything you want to mention on missions, or should I dive into some of these questions that I'm seeing?
Yeah, let's get the questions. I just FYI, I'm not going to be showing off the client today. I think we're so close here. I just want you guys to get to dive in. But I'm more than happy to take questions across the board.
Yeah. Okay. So I think a really good one is Gray Area. It's asking it, what's the minimum duration that pre-release is going to be going? So we have aligned that the missions will be 6 weeks. That doesn't mean pre-release will necessarily just close and you won't have access after that, but that's the incentivized part of it. So complete missions within the first 6 weeks is what we've geared all these numbers to. I should also say that if we see that the threshold that needs to be met for these community missions is just not being met, we're not close, we will be flexible a little bit on lowering that threshold. But I think we're going to be pretty firm on kind of the max threshold. So that is a little adaptable. You guys will see all of this here pretty soon too, and we're going to try and stick to those numbers as quoted. Let's see. Other questions? Chris, you gave an update on EIP 4844 already, but for everyone who knows or who doesn't know, things are looking pretty good. All the time frames look like they're hitting, what they're saying right now publicly. Chris, do you have a date on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure I did. I'm not sure I did mention a date. The official date for the merge to occur is, I believe it's still on March 13th. Our block times are pretty consistent now, so it should be March 13th.
Awesome. Yeah. So, we're trying to launch shortly after. What shortly means, I think, is going to depend on kind of the ecosystem, how well it's adapting to EIP 4844 and Volition getting involved, and we'll get you guys updated on that as soon as we can. But we really do want it as close to that date as possible.
Just to be clear, Volition is not a dependency for us to launch.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Probably shouldn't even brought up Volition.
Yeah. So we expect that StarkNet will deploy quickly after the Denkun merge on the 13th. I don't know exactly how quickly, so we're leaving a little bit of wiggle room there. But like JP said, we intend to deploy quite soon after the merge.
Yeah. So a few more questions. Nathrax saw that there was an update to the SDK for products. Chris, it was yesterday, so I'm assuming you probably know what's kind of been changed. Do you want to give any information on that?
There's a decent bit changed. There was the finalization of volumes across the board for materials. Some of those had been missing, or we're just kind of using standard values that were not specific. There was some tweaking on various modules and especially on buildings, just based on the balancing efforts that the Proto has been undergoing. So in general, you'll see, I think that the buildings are quite a bit cheaper. They were quite expensive previously. I think there was one name change of a process, but in general, that's it's all reflecting our balancing efforts. So you will likely see more of those changes over the course of these, these 6 weeks as well. They're likely to get less and less significant, of course, but we're
Yeah.
we're always watching and tweaking them as we get closer and closer to launch.
Yeah, it's a big balancing act. Next question we've got from Thunder, will players/alliances be able to create their own missions? It's a really good question. I mean, long term, we would absolutely love that. Initially, what that's probably going to look like is if you are an alliance or an individual and you have sway and you want to give that out for, incentivized reasons, you're more than welcome to probably post a mission within the Discord. I can make a place for that if you guys find that valuable, and we can get that set up for kind of the short-term solution to that. So I think to your main question though, Thunder, no, it's not like a module that we have in game that you can make your own missions at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's 2, maybe 3 phases to that. The first is, like JP said, just sort of ad hoc, communicated via Discord or wherever. The second step there, and it's something that JP's been working a lot on, is working with the rest of the StarkNet ecosystem to identify like the platforms that can be used for delivering on these sorts of missions, just a little bit more generalized, not just influence, but anything. And there are a few of those that we're working with. And then I think the third step is incorporating those directly into the game. And that's something I'd love to be working on. I think it'd be something that the community is also very well suited to be working on with us. So I hope that's something that we can build together as exploitation gets started.
Yeah. I'd love to see that for the community. I think that it should be kind of a community tool to make those missions, but surfacing them in game is an interesting concept that we would love to have at some point. Not sure how it works quite yet. Next question we have from Bambi. Can you give us some more details on solo missions? Without giving away everything, these are missions that are core game loops, mining, building, flight, bringing materials places, taking core samples, those types of things are all part of the solo mission quests. There are 9 of them that you can complete. And, I think that's probably enough information for now. This will be public, quite soon. Next question, Wolf. Really excited to see you come back. You look like you purchased asteroids in the very first sale and you really haven't looked back since. So I think we're going to see more and more people just like you. So yeah, we want to make sure that it's easy for you guys to understand what's going on and how to get involved again. I will personally reach out to you after this call and I can get you up to speed on what you need to do to, bridge those assets over to StarkNet. Veltas, will the testnet environment be an increased speed or be at increased speed? Chris, yeah, do you want to give any information on that?
We have thought potentially about speeding it up. We probably won't. We will reserve the right to speed it up at some point during the process, but we'd like to get a fairly realistic set of feedback around how it feels, and ultimately, if it does feel too slow to everybody, we'd like to know that. And I think it would be unfortunate not to be able to get that feedback until launch. So we're likely to stick with the intended game speed and see how we do. And if we need to balance it, then we will balance it from there.
Yeah. So Kimmy, you've got a really good, or you have a couple of questions. So what's the difference between early access and public access? Well, early access starts on the 21st. Public access starts on the 27th. So if you have Arvad crewmates or first generation Adalians, you'll be able to get that early 1 week access ahead of time. And then public access will just be open to anyone. There's no bridging that you need to do on Sepolia L1 to L2. To participate in public access, you just join the game, get some sway, get some Sepolia ETH, mint a crewmate, and start playing. So if you guys want to do that, you're more than welcome to do that as well, regardless of whether or not you have early access. Yeah,
I should mention as well. I shared a Sepolia faucet earlier today. There's a few of those popping up, and we'll make sure to include those in our communications. But we will also be offering a Sepolia ETH and Sway faucet in the game. They'll effectively take the place of where you will go to top up your Sway in game at launch. In this case, it'll just be a faucet. We're going to be running basically like a limited once daily drip per address. Of course, we'd appreciate if it's not abused, but I think we'll be able to figure out ways to deal with that if it is. So thank you for all of you who contributed Girly ETH in the past. We were able to bridge all of that over to Sepolia, and I think have a fairly substantial set of Sepolia ETH to make sure that nobody's having to run around trying to find arbitrary faucets everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting to have this built-in client too. Just makes things a lot more simple for pre-release. So big props to Chris here. That was, I know, probably quite a bit of work to get all set up, but it's going to definitely help a lot with pre-release. It's literally one click to get Sway, one click to get ETH on Sepolia. So and it's all in game, so we don't have to send you all over. Now, if you are willing to get Sepolia ETH, like Chris said, plenty of places to do that, and we'll include those in our communications. Yeah, so how many ships do we have, Kimmy? That's kind of a hard question to answer. Depends on what asteroids you own, and things like that. But overall, what is there? 1,841 early adopter? No, actually, the numbers increase because depending on what size of asteroid you have, I think there's around 5,000.
Somewhere in the somewhere in the range of 2,000.
Okay,
a little bit more than 2,000.
All right, so around 2,000 ships total will be available, and then there will be, items on marketplaces that will get people up to speed to building ships pretty quickly if you, figure out how to actually do that. I think that's going to be a fun challenge for you guys to do. All right, question. Let's see here. If someone never moved their assets to L2, how are they reflected on StarkNet Sepolia? So this snapshot, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but on L1, if you have your assets, that snapshot was also taken, so you'll just have to use the bridge to, get them over to StarkNet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's so the assets themselves that have always been on L1 are not present on L2 until you bridge them. What is present is a seeded information about those asteroids. So basically, we took a snapshot and moved over, and this actually has occurred already on mainnet. We basically turned off all of the contracts on L1. The scans won't occur anymore. You're not going to have new features generated on L1. We took all that data. It's been shared on the SDK, so it's also on IPFS. If anybody cares to look at it, has been snapshotted in history, is immutable. We basically seeded all of that data onto L2. So even though you might have asteroid 2322 sitting on L1, the data about it, if it was scanned, its name, that sort of information, its size, all of that is present on L2. So people who are playing can interact with it even if the asset is sitting on L1. And that's also the case if you bridged L1 to L2 and then bridged back, which I expect to be the case quite a bit when people are trying to effectively delegate their valuable assets to their L2 wallet, but don't want to keep them there.
All right, so we've got lots of questions rolling in here. Excited to see them all. Let's see here. Okay, where's the top here? Oh yeah, okay. So what happens if you run out of food completely? Not, I know they go into starvation mode at 50%, but what happens when they go to 0?
So there's no like permadeath or perma-starvation in Influence. It's I think a challenging enough game already. Basically what happens when you hit 0 food is that your crew operates at severely diminished capacity, like 25%. So there's pretty substantial penalties for being starving. But you can still do things, just very slowly. There are certain limitations, like for example, if you are starving, you can't travel unless you're traveling in emergency mode. So getting stuck without food is just about as bad as getting stuck without propellant. It's important to make sure that you're bringing both of those things when you take a trip somewhere. Load up maybe a couple of extra years worth of food in your cargo hold, along with a propellant inventory full of propellant.
All right. So, any question or next question is anything major that we don't have in pre-release that will be on release? Yeah, there's a few features. Chris, do you want to outline kind of what's not going to be in pre-release or maybe coming late in pre-release?
Yeah, I mentioned a couple that are more cosmetic, event annotations and descriptions. So like if you'll see a tab on the crew screen, for example, that says like mission statement. And that'll be a cool spot for you to kind of describe what your crew's all about. Potentially advertise if you're wanting to offer any sort of services or what have you. Maybe you want to mention that you have some space on an asteroid for lease. That's not going to come along with the annotations on specific events in the log until during pre-release. Same for chat. The other pieces, there are on NFT order books, so actually integrated as part of the NFT contracts. There will be Sway denominated sell-only order books. So basically, if you want to offer in a non-custodial way an asteroid, a crewmate, a crew, or a ship for sale, you can do that by basically setting a Sway price for your individual token on the NFT. And then that sale can be handled via the UI in the client, but still maintaining the non-custodial nature of your Sway. That is probably going to be there for ships at the start of pre-release, but not likely to be for the other 3 that will come soon after.
I think the biggest one is probably in-game chat, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
not biggest in terms of like a game mechanic, but I think an impactful feature, yes.
Okay, so another question, Alpha Punk. I know I see it's been already answered, but for anyone here in the audience, can you buy Adalians and asteroids directly on StarkNet? Yes, you can buy them directly in game, and you can find them on secondary markets on StarkNet as well. I would check out the official links channel if you're looking. And
that's true. That's true of mainnet today, and will also be true of pre-release.
Yeah. So on mainnet and testnet, you can buy Adalians and asteroids. Well, I guess when pre-release launches, you'll be able to do it on testnet. You can do it on mainnet today. Okay, let's see here. What are some other questions? A lot of questions back and forth, but it doesn't look like there's anything new for actually, okay, Kimmy, will we see sway mechanics in pre-release, so limited inflation, deflation, etc.?
You will see it. I'm going to go ahead and simulate that as well. It's you know, I don't have high hopes of that all being exactly accurate to launch. You know, the dynamics of new players entering at launch, how quickly they're participating, how much sway is used, potentially external to in game, are all a little bit tricky to predict. But you'll see if you want to watch that process. You'll see it.
Another question regarding ships, Chris. People are just wondering, how do people get their ships? What are people going to have to do?
Yeah. So for those of you who have the early adopter starter pack, as well as for those of you who participated in the prepare for launch sale and have an Adalian waiting for you, you will see when you go to one of the asteroids that you own, or actually, in this case, an asteroid where you are the delegate of the crew that controls it. You will see a little flashing button as a little gift icon on it. You'll click on it, and basically it'll tell you that your starter pack is going to spawn in orbit around Adalia Prime. Once that happens, you can go check out your ship in your assets, and it'll be loaded up with goodies.
We should add a make it rain GIF that pops up when you do that.
I should add that specifically for the people who have an Adalian waiting for them, that they received as part of a first generation Adalian that they received as part of the prepare for launch sale. Those ones do not require you to have a crew yet, so it's not based on the delegated or the delegate of a crew. It's actually based on the owner of that asteroid. And the reason for that is that it might be your first crewmate, and you want to create a crew from that. So if that's the case, you're all set. You can just go in, you'll see that little gift box pop up, and you can go ahead and claim that credit and start a crew. If you're claiming that early adopter starter pack, you do need a crew. You can't fly the ship without a crew, so make sure you have a crew, and then you can grab it and go ahead and start piloting it.
One thing I did want to maybe focus on for just a second is, and I know you mentioned this in the beginning, Chris, but this is still a test net. There's going to be some clunkiness regarding blockchain that won't be present on mainnet. And I think the biggest one to just get out in front of is we don't have session keys yet. So you guys are going to have to confirm every action in your wallet. Fortunately, this game, isn't action heavy, but you are going to have that secondary step still. But this will not be there in mainnet. We are working already on having those on mainnet. They just don't support testnet right now. So we hope to have that feature in testnet, but it's just not feasible for us to have that happen, unfortunately. So with that said, though, that's I think really going to be the only major blockchain event that you're going to have. So if you guys see new people rolling in asking questions and they are complaining about it, you can let them know that this will not be present when the game actually launches. Okay, next question. How deep are you Unstoppable Games sell orders of 10K sway at $1 going to be? Chris, I don't think we want to make a comment on that at this point. I think yeah, I'll leave it up to you to make a comment.
So our intention is to have the purchases of sway be coming from from sort of the collective LPs that exist on StarkNet. And so we're partnering with Avenue to do that, which is an aggregator. So any of you who want to LP Sway, either Sway Ether, Sway USDC, Sway DAI, whatever you want to do, I'd encourage that. We're not, when you go into the game, and this is at launch, not a pre-release. Pre-release, we're doing a faucet, but at launch, when you go into the game and you go to top up your Sway, that little dialogue where you say, like, I want to buy 1 million Sway, that order is going to happen against the aggregated LPs in all of StarkNet, not necessarily ours. We're not setting up a specific contract that only sells, Unstoppable Game Sway to you. We want everybody to be participating there. So, we will participate as a market participant that intends to make sure that we're able to fund this game through to discovery and through to conflict. We want to keep delivering more influence and kind of reach that vision that we've been talking about for a couple of years now. So that's our primary intention. We of course also want to make sure that there's enough Sway for people to get a hold of if they want to play. So those are kind of our dual mandates.
Yeah, hopefully that was enough information for now. I mean, I think we could probably be more clear on that closer to launch, but ultimately,
we will not be any clearer than that.
Okay. Well, there you have it.
We're not going to go and say, hey, well, there's X billion Sway available at X price. I think it's I don't think that's a reasonable approach, considering that we are a market participant along with everybody else.
Maybe this is a broader question around Sway and just kind of how the tokenomics are built, Chris. But what levers do we have, to adjust Sway?
Levers that we have to adjust Sway. Well, we won't be taking advantage of those levers in any sort of centralized way to control price. That goes pretty solidly against our approach in general. What I expect will happen with Sway and how it will in general be controlled is that it's a market. It's a market ultimately for access to influence, access to buying things in influence. So in large part, it's going to be driven by success of the game, the amount of interest in the game, and the growth of the player base, which ultimately drives the inflation mechanic. So I expect that the market will do an incredible job of managing that, as markets typically do, and we will try to stay out of being a heavy-handed market participant in that way.
Yeah, and it should be probably noted that long term, this is all going to be DAO controlled, and if votes pass to alter things, then that's what happens. But UGI isn't doing that. Okay, well, we've got a little bit more time. Maybe no more market Sway questions. They're a little challenging.
There was a similar question that was just about resources. Basically, what if the price of the resources goes very high? Do we have levers there? And yeah, we do. Proto, I think, has talked about this in the past, but basically, our intention is to see the market. And we shared a screenshot or two of that, kind of the depth chart that we've put together. It's a fairly aggressive depth chart in that it gets expensive quite quickly. So there's a fair amount of material for sale at a base price. And then we have decreasing size buckets at substantially higher and higher prices to try to push the market back towards a reasonable middle ground. But the idea is that if things do get extremely out of whack, we sort of reserve the right to seed additional But again, our goal is to really be out of that market completely within a month. Our participation after that will be me playing on my secret asteroid and probably losing miserably.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be alone on my tiny 13-kilometer asteroid, but at least it's exceptional rarity. Just to be clear, everyone, and Lewin, it's February 21st for pre-release, not March, February. So next week is when the early access starts, and then we'll go to public on 27th.
Somebody said, Attis said that I don't see my assets on assets pre-release, August 19th. I need to check the date, but that is pretty close to when the snapshot was that we did prior to launching in a limited way on mainnet on StarkNet. So it may be the case that you missed that snapshot by a little bit.
Yeah,
in that case, I would definitely encourage you to ask
UEC.
a UEC friend to send you a crewmate.
Yeah, and for people that I know who have been here a while, I'll try and distribute my citizens and specialists if you guys were caught out by the snapshot. So just keep that in mind. You're welcome to ping me, and I'm happy to help. The next question I see is, what can we view in exploration mode? Chris, this is a really interesting concept for games. It really isn't in any other game. Maybe you want to dive in a little bit on explore mode?
Yeah. So at this stage, everything. You can see everything. And it's, obviously that's going to be something to keep in mind from a strategy perspective. But due to the nature of blockchain as it stands today, prior to our introducing zero knowledge, you can see everything. So exploration is going to be pretty liberal in what we make available to see. And I think it'll be kind of fun to play spectator for a while. And then as we get closer and closer to the more PvP heavy components or systems in Influence, we will of course have zero knowledge introduced and start to roll out a fog of war that reduces a lot of that. Kind of eliminates more and more what you can actually see.
Yeah, from a creator perspective too, for people who are interested in covering influence in some capacity or like figuring out strategies and what people are doing, you can just explore around, look at what people are doing and be able to garner a lot of information from that and share it how you want. I mean, I will say that I'm going to have a pot of sway that we're going to hopefully be seeing content drop in during pre-release, and I'd love to reward some strategy guides. I'm working on new ACC goals right now, and to just be clear with you guys, it's going to be separated into two different buckets. We're no longer going to have kind of content creation and development in the same bucket. They will be separated out. That way, I think that's just a little bit more fair. We're not having someone who made a strategy guide competing with someone who maybe made a really cool, awesome application. So that's going to be coming here hopefully pretty soon. I'd like to announce more of that towards actual exploitation launch. And while we're on this topic, I can't give a lot of details, guys, on this yet, but we already have a community member or a team working on some really, really cool tools that will be available during pre-release that will cover much of the in-game missions and things like that. So I'll let them reveal themselves when they decide, but I was given approval to mention that something is in the works, and from what I've seen, it's very exciting. Yeah. Also, while I'm announcing things, Stark City, Denver. If you guys are going to ETH Denver on the 28th, there is a StarkNet event. If you are there or if you want to go, ping me. I will give you a discount code so that you can get half off your ticket. Then it's only like $12 or something like that. I will be giving a short talk, just covering influence on-chain games and why I think Starknet was the place to build an on-chain game, which I'm super excited about. So yeah, just ping me if you guys want one of those tickets. Okay, other questions? Do we see any? No, just some jokes with Commissar. I have to say, I just want to, thank Commissar for being our lovable comedy or comedic relief here in the Discord. I can't tell you how much I enjoy reading the chats between you and everyone else. So keep it up, guys. We're gonna have hopefully a lot more community coming in, and I'm excited to have just a fun community here. A lot of you guys have been here a long time, and we know that. And thank you guys for your support. I already told the moderators this, but I will say that we also would like to support people who are helping the community. So we do have some sway allocated to giving these out to people who are kind of moderators during pre-release. You don't have to be an official moderator to help out. Someone like Barakmar. I don't know if he's in the crowd here, but I know he killed it last testnet. So people like that, I'm going to be keeping my eye on. So thank you guys for supporting the community. Also, shout out to Max here in the audience. He's the one who does all our videos. So that cool video that you saw drop on Twitter today, he made that. So thank you. You're awesome. Just could not thank you enough. It's been awesome working with you. All right. Well, I'm not seeing a ton more questions rolling in, guys. So I think we're going to close this out here shortly. I'll give one more minute or so if you guys have more questions regarding the game, and we can answer those, and then we'll close it out. Well, I see someone typing, likely a question. Chris, question for you. How does it feel? 2012, you had the idea for this game. You're now close to having a fully playable release.
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, exhausting, but great. I think it's been a long time that it's kind of simmered in my mind. Wasn't really until 2017 or 18 that it clicked to me that blockchain was the place to make it happen, build an unstoppable game. And I feel incredibly lucky to have had the opportunity to do that with all of your support starting in 2021, and it's really, really exciting to have it be on the verge of being delivered here. I'm really excited to play with you all.
It's been pretty impressive. I mean, I don't know if you guys know the story of how Chris and I met, but he made a post on Reddit long ago. I thought it was awesome. I reached out, and I was just some random guy. We hopped on a call that I think was meant to be like a 10-minute meet and greet, and I think we talked for almost like an hour or 2 hours. And we've kind of been working on influence since. So it's been really, really exciting to be here, guys. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to getting pre-release and launch out. And get excited. Hype it up. This is the time. Tell your friends. Oh, yeah, I guess, question regarding kind of governance. Chris, do you want to maybe just kind of go over your broad details of kind of your thoughts around, governance in general?
Yeah. So governance is certainly a work in progress. Our first step towards governance, I think, was the introduction of the Adalian Creators Collective, the ACC. That will continue, and I think, given that the launch of Sway is coming soon, along with the launch of Exploitation, the likelihood is there that the treasury for the ACC will be significantly larger, more substantial, and I think can power a lot more, influence ecosystem growth. So I think that that's a first step, and we'll start to experiment more with governance models with all of your feedback and input, of course. But the intention is that will ultimately grow into the influence DAO, and that will progressively take over more and more of the decentralized operation of the influence universe. And so that includes, the sway governor that sits on L1. It'll include ultimately the permissions to add new systems and new components to the game, to tweak the game, change balance, all of that. So I think that that's something that will be much more of a work in progress as after exploitation is released and we are able to kind of commit more resources to focusing on that.
I mean, it's a really exciting concept. And for those of you who don't know, Thunder put together a pretty awesome proposal around governance in general and a satellite mechanic. It's pretty cool. If you haven't read it, I would recommend taking a look. Let's see here. Any other final questions? Maybe not. I see one person typing. But yeah, Gutsy, does my girlfriend know her wedding venue may be on a 13-kilometer rock? No, I've been, too busy to progress that. But I will say, for you guys, there's definitely a proposal here. And just haven't had the time to get it out yet. I don't know if it'll be on. Maybe Adalia Prime is a better location for it, though.
She doesn't listen to these AMAs, does she?
No, God, no. She's not home either right now. There's been hints dropped that she wants it to happen.
Okay,
so.
all right.
Leaving a ring out that I can clearly see its size. That's definitely been happening. Okay, so one question. He swears he's not trying to stir the pot, and you can totally ignore this if you want, but we're concerned. Are you concerned at all about StarkNet provisions fiasco? Max, I don't know if you were here in the beginning of the conversations, but to summarize this, we have some concerns. We have some critiques. StarkNet understands. We have voiced them. We're going to continue to voice them. We are working on having a focused gaming initiative on StarkNet, and we're looking forward to having something that I think is more rewarding for those who are actively using and playing games on StarkNet. So I think I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, I think they did a lot of interesting and good things as well for their criteria. I just think that there were a few things that caused quite a few challenges.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to see, and I think that they were rightly lauded for making efforts to reward, the people who run the infrastructure for Ethereum, for L1 node operators, especially solo stakers. I think that was great to see. They also allocated quite a bit, which is not. I don't think that they did as good of a job as they should have making people aware of it, but they allocated a fair amount to open source projects outside of just blockchain. So, including like the Linux Foundation and a lot of the pieces of software that run the stacks that, all of blockchain, including all of the dApps and the indexers, everything actually run on. I think that stuff was really good. I think on the user side, they made some mistakes on specifically one of the criteria. But I feel for them. It's a very difficult thing to determine airdrop criteria, and it gets harder and harder with every subsequent airdrop. Civil resistance is no joke. But I like JP said, and like I mentioned earlier, we've given our feedback, we've given your feedback. We're making clear to them, how it was received, what was well received, what wasn't. And just so you all know, there is another 900 million Starks that are allocated to get into the hands of the community in some way or another. And we want to make sure that as much as that as we can is going towards the gaming ecosystem and this community, and we'll continue to work to do that. This is certainly not the last opportunity. Again, game. I still think that StarkNet was the right technology stack to choose. It is. You'll see another announcement coming soon that's decreasing the cost, the fees of compute on StarkNet once again, and that those are only going to keep on coming. One of the really unique, awesome features of a zero knowledge rollup. And with 4844 and Volition coming along, we're going to have this amazing low fee to really experiment with and have a lot of fun building influence on. But we will do our best to help make sure that they understand the missteps they're making and how they can correct them in the future.
Yeah, and I don't want to finish it on that note because again, we aren't StarkNet, but pre-release is coming. Get excited, guys. There's a lot in store. I will also just mention, while there are rewards allocated for pre-release specifically through those missions, those same types of events and things like that will happen more and more as the game goes into exploitation. So this is really just a taste. We want you guys to learn the game, earn some rewards, give us feedback, and that way we can launch exploitation with no hiccups or minimal hiccups. And we're all playing with thousands upon thousands of people here. So lots to come. I'm gonna hunker down and start to try and onboard more and more of these creators now that we have a pre-release coming. So I'm gonna be in my hole contacting hundreds of people. That's what I'm gonna start working on right now. So I hope everyone has a great day. Chris, do you have any final words you want to say?
No, get excited. I'm excited. I can't wait to actually play this game with all of you. It's been great building it with your participation, with your feedback. The testnets we've done so far have been amazing. I think this one is going to be certainly the most amazing one yet, and I can't wait to see all of the new participants that come in and kind of give this community another shot in the arm of growth and new blood. So really, really excited to see what happens starting next week.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Thank you. If you have more questions, just ping us in the Game Questions channel.
Thanks, everyone.